Don't move to Toronto. I'm gonna give you the top 5 reasons why you shouldn't move to Toronto, but if you're brave enough to, why don't you contact me, because I am a realtor that serves the Toronto area, and I'd be happy to help you make that move if after watching this video you decide not to. But let's get into some of the reasons why you shouldn't move to this city. The first reason why you shouldn't move to Toronto is Toronto has a high cost of living. So the average detached home in here is over $1.5 million, and the average condo is over $700,000. Beyond that, food costs are expensive, insurances, parking, groceries, everything in this city costs a little more. If you want to go out for a dinner, you know, you're going to be spending some money. There's a saying in Toronto where if you're going out for an afternoon or an evening, you're going to be looking to spend at least $100. I'll add one final point to the cost of living, and that's that Toronto has its own land transfer tax beyond the provincial one. So anytime you're buying or selling a home in Toronto, you're going to be hit with 2 land transfer tax, one for the provincial government and one for the municipal government. The second reason to not move to Toronto is the traffic congestion. The roads can get quite busy, and we often say that it takes an hour to get from Toronto to Toronto, and that the Don Valley Parkway is basically the Don Valley parking lot, and that road, the Gardner, all the main arteries in town as well beyond the highways, everything just gets a little more busy. And if you're out on the road driving during rush hour and you get easily frustrated by traffic, you're gonna have a bad time. There's also another joke in this city that we have 2 seasons: winter and construction. So there's always a lot of construction going on the roads. Eglinton is a big one. It's been under construction for probably about 100 years now. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it has been going on for quite a long time to get the Eglinton light rail transit going. So there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of construction, and a lot of congestion on the roads. The third reason to not move to Toronto is the job market can be quite competitive at times. So if you're looking for an entry-level job, you will be going up against a lot of applicants, a lot of fresh graduates, stuff like that. And then even beyond that, to the more senior roles, there's a lot of people applying for these jobs. And then just beyond that as well, the thing when it comes to jobs in Toronto is the salaries don't quite line up with the living expenses that come along with living in this city. So if you're looking at major cities in Canada, you might be better off in like a Calgary or a Montreal. You'll get a lot more stretch of your salary, and you'll probably still be in quite competitive job markets, but that being said, your buck will go a lot longer. The fourth reason to not move to Toronto is you don't like the cold. If you're not a fan of cold winters, definitely don't move to Toronto, especially down by Lake Ontario, because the lake effect winds, the cold, it does get to be quite bitter. And while we haven't really experienced it this year, in other years, the winters can be quite tremendous to deal with. Obviously, it's not going to be as bad as a Montreal or a Calgary, but you know, basically I would say don't move to Canada if you don't like cold winters, because winter is just a fact of life here. So you're going to have to get used to bundling up and going out in the cold. Thankfully, a couple positives on this note is Toronto does have good walking paths. We have what's called the path underneath of the city, where you can get a lot of places downtown without actually having to go into the cold. But if you're already bundled up for the cold, going between a warm place, walking, sweating, and then going back out into the cold, it's not fun. So if you don't like cold, don't move to Toronto. And the fifth reason to not move to Toronto is you don't like crowds and you don't do well in a very crowded environment. The streets can get busy, the transit can get quite busy, and sometimes you feel like a bunch of sardines packed into a can. So again, if you're not a big fan of crowds, not going out in a lot of people walking down the road, people everywhere, cars everywhere, overload of sensory inputs, if that's not your thing, don't move to Toronto. So those are the 5 reasons why you shouldn't move to Toronto. Now, that's not to say that Toronto is a bad place or anything, and there are lots of positives and lots of reasons why you should move to Toronto. If you'd like to see me make a video on that, let me know in the comments. I'm probably gonna make it anyway, whether you let me know or not. Again, my name's Tom Kustra. I'm a local realtor with eXp Realty in the Greater Toronto area. If you're thinking about moving to Toronto or one of the surrounding cities, feel free to reach out and hit me up, because I'd love to be your realtor. And more than that, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment if you got a bit of value out of this video. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a nice day.